Hi. I just popped into the local Salvation Army secondhand store, which is the closest one to my house and next to the supermarket. And so, or the same complex as the supermarket. And so that's probably the place that I go to the most. They have $1 CDs there. And I found some good stuff there, but I've also noticed that they have a lot of the same stuff that just doesn't move. A lot of the crap has been sitting there for months, if not years. There's one, for example, a CDR burned copy of Stained. What's that Stained album? The one, the big one they had in the early or late '90s, early 2000s. Hang on, break the cycle. That's been there honestly for over a year because who the hell wants to buy a burned copy with a photocopied artwork on the front? Not me. Well, I don't like Stained regardless, but yeah, but they sometimes you'll just be lucky and you'll get there after they've put some brand new stuff out. Once I went there and they've also got these tables out the front that when they get brand new stock, especially books or CDs, they'll lay them on the table first. And I went there one Saturday morning and I found about 10 pretty decent things, but that would have been about a year ago now. So what did I find today? Not much, to be honest, but something. The Vampire Diaries soundtrack. Now, I got confused. I thought this was True Blood. Remember True Blood, which is also a vampire type show, with Anna Paquin in it. But this is not that, and I actually don't know what the Vampire Diaries is. I remember my ex girlfriend used to watch True Blood, and I have the True Blood soundtrack already, so I thought this was a second True Blood slash Vampire Diaries mixed up in my mind soundtrack because I looked at the back and I saw these artists. I was like, they're not on the soundtrack I've got. Must be a different one. So the True Blood soundtrack, which is over behind me, I should have got it to show you, but is the score. It's got done by Barr. What's his name? Michael Barr, is it? But it also has some kind of other artists doing like kind of blues. Like it's isn't that show's based in New Orleans, isn't it, or Louis somewhere in Louisiana? So it's all kind of blues, Delta blues, bayou type music, but kind of with a dark edge to it because vampires. Um, it doesn't say. I thought it would say who it was. Anyway, that's not important because this is the one I'm talking about. This is the Vampire Diaries, which I think was out around the same time, but I've never watched the Vampire Diaries. So it's an American drama series. I came in 2009, and I don't recognize any of the actors or actresses. Um, and I don't know how long it went for either. It went for 8 seasons. Okay, it must have been pretty, pretty popular. But yeah, going down those list of actors, I've never heard of any of them. It was aired on the CW. What is the CW? We don't have the CW in New Zealand. CW says it is. It doesn't say. What does it stand for? CW. Oh, the network's name is derived from the CBS and Warner Brothers. Okay. Anyway, so this looks to be in pretty good condition. Near new, I'd call that. No visible damage. The back looks very new. And what have we got here? We got some artists I know and some I don't know. Michael Subi, Placebo's Placebo, the British band Placebo. Their cover version of Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush. Silver Sun Pickups, Howl's Bat for Lashes, remember them? Gold Frap, I'm just going to say the ones that I know. Smashing Pumpkins, Gorillas. So it looks like it's got some songs, but it's also got some stuff by Michael Subi, who I assume is a kind of composer, because he's got Stefan's Theme by Michael Subi and 1864 by Michael Subi. As well as some kind of other late 2000s, early 2010s type rock indie type bands. Some I've heard of, some I haven't heard of. I have never heard of Digital Daggers, or Jason Walker, or Plumb, or Sounds Under Radio. Now, because it was on the CW, it could be a case that the soundtrack's not very good. I'm not sure. Because True Blood was on HBO, and HBO's kind of got more latitude with their TV shows and their, I don't know, the soundtracks that go with the TV shows. They don't have to be so mainstream. But who knows? There's the cast. Don't recognize a single one of them. They don't look like, well, he kind of looks like a vampire, doesn't he? But then what does a vampire look like, really? And we got some liner notes and an introduction talking about some of the music. See if there's anything I can see just quickly. No, excuse me. Okay, so yeah, that was $1. And like I've said before, I tend to get soundtracks more readily, as in like even if I've never heard them, because I kind of have a sub collection going of just soundtracks. Though I usually tend to get more 90s, late 80s, 90s soundtracks, but this is a bit later. But anyway, could be okay, could be a pile of shite. This one is another sub collection I have. I've talked to you before about new age meditative type music that I often buy, sometimes for the cheesiness of it and sometimes for the artwork. This one looks a little bit more recent. And you see you got the what's that called, slip case thing that goes over it. Mind and Spirit. Focus your mind with 2 CDs of relaxing spiritual music. Now, I looked briefly at this while I was in the shop. The music on these 2 CDs has been specially composed. Okay, so it's not... Oh no, I was going to say it's not done by artists, it's done by one. No, but that's not true. To focus your mind and relax your body, let the gentle sounds do their work and help combine mind with spirit to reveal the peace that lies within. So I like some of the titles. Memories of Goa, Dawn Meditation. What is it? Yeah. I don't understand why there's 2 entries. Is one of those the artists? Yeah, it must be. I think the first, yeah, it is. Okay, so the first one is the artist, and the second one is the song title. Saffron Sounds, Mind Phases. So we have this name, track 5, Prem Gulshan. I assume that's a name. And 9, Akash Asha. It's all very kind of mystical Eastern sounding, isn't it? But those names sound quite Indian. Malabar, isn't Malabar's a place in India, isn't it? Malabar? Or am I thinking of Nicobar? The Nicobar Islands. Malabar. Malabar sounds familiar though. Goa is in India, I know that. And then over here we've got what's again Saffron Sounds, tabla, temple. Tabla is a kind of drum, isn't it? Indian drum. Karma Sounds, Karma Beats. Salam Sound Clash. Orient Expressions. Not allowed to say that anymore, are you? You can't say Orient. Or is it okay to say Orient, just not Oriental? Mountain Mantra. So there's a few different ways this could go. Because this is more recent, I can kind of assume what it's going to be like. It's going to be more with the electronic elements into it. So kind of maybe have like a kind of a drum beat, a drum machine beat with some kind of Eastern sounding instruments or vocals over the top. Whereas earlier New Age stuff was much more all synth based. Like you could play the whole thing off just one, with some different samples on your synth. A lot of piano, a lot of kind of sounds of the ocean coming in and out, or birds, or which way does that go? Is it this one or that one? See, these bloody things, I've talked about these before, how I don't like these, see, okay, the hinge is there, because that looks like it, but then if you try and pull it up here, you feel like you're going to break it. Is it? That looks like the hinges there, doesn't it? Is that little? You can't really see it there. Yes, it is. Okay, definitely the hinges on the right hand side, so it swings out in reverse. There we go. Kind of loosened it up a little bit. There's CD2. So this is around 2016. So a lot of people would see this as kind of just a waste of time. But like I said, I have this kind of smaller sub collection of new age music, and it's usually again more 90s new age. I kind of have this wheelhouse of stuff that I go for, and if it's more recent, I'll usually avoid it. But like I've said before, because sometimes you're just in the mood to buy something. Sometimes you'll go into a shop and you're completely opposite. You're like, oh, I can't be bothered taking the CD up to the counter and interacting with the staff member and paying for it. Just sometimes, you're in that kind of mood. I've talked about before how I've been in shops and there's been CDs there that I do really want. Off the top of my head, I remember Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, Billy Joel, River of Dreams. There was something quite recently as well. What was it? And those two I just named, those are ones that I'm looking for that are not in my collection. And I want them. And it was just, for whatever reason, on that particular day, I just did not. Something I guess, yeah. Like everyone, I can be quite affected by my mood sometimes. So you'd kind of ask yourself, well, why'd you go into the shop in the first place? Well, sometimes like I'm in the area where these shops are, like I'm driving home from work, or I've dropped my son off at some kind of event or activity or whatever, and I happen to be driving by, and I think, well, I'm not going to be coming past here again for another couple of months, so I might as well pop in. So kind of force myself to stop. And then once I get in there, it's just like, and sometimes the atmosphere, sometimes it's too crowded, and it's, and you should listen to your feelings, shouldn't you? You should listen to your intuition. The sad thing is that lots of time in life you can't do that. Sometimes you get to work and you're like, oh, I cannot be bothered working today. I do not feel like doing this today. Other times you get in there pumped and you're like, yeah, I'm ready for work. I'm ready to do it. But you don't have a choice in that case, do you? You got to work, because otherwise you won't get paid, or you'll get fired, or whatever. I guess sometimes you have the luxury of having a couple of like in New Zealand, we get 10 paid sick days per year, which I think is pretty, relatively generous. Actually, I don't know where it falls within the scale of the world, like other countries. I think when I was working in South Korea, I think they have 5 paid sick days. And in my company, we can bank them. So say if I've been working there for 3 years, and if I don't, you have 10 per year. And I haven't used that many, so I think I've got 27 sick days left. I had to use a few for COVID the first time, but we had special leave in New Zealand. The government would pay for you to stay at home for if you caught COVID. So the company didn't have to pay up. But then I got it again this year, just recently, and that time I had to use my sick leave. Well, there's other times where you've got to do things, and you really don't feel like. Sometimes, probably shouldn't say this publicly. Sometimes like family interactions. It's nothing to do with my family personally. My family are wonderful people, but sometimes it's just like, I don't even say my family. Like anyone, you're gonna go meet. You've made an appointment to meet someone, a friend, or like I said, family, and then like the appointment's coming, and you're just like, oh, I'm gonna meet someone at 10:30 today. I just cannot be asked doing this. And when I was a teenager, I'm like, actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm better now as an adult, though. I think I'm much more responsible, and if I have made an appointment, I will stick to the appointment. But kind of where we live in a society, I guess, or kind of we have these social norms or expectations upon each other where, sometimes you just got to do things, and you can't, I guess you can't wallow in those feelings, can you? Because then you just stay at home forever, wouldn't you? There's some people who would do that. There's some people who do that. They just kind of just wallow in those negative feelings and think, oh, I can't be bothered today. I actually had a girlfriend like that. long time ago, and she would get into these moods with like that, like I just said. Whereas I would wake up in the morning and go, I can't be bothered going to work, but I would, like 99% of the people, you'd force yourself, you bite down on the leather and you fucking do it. Whereas she would wake up in the morning and go, I can't be bothered to go to work, and she wouldn't go to work. And that's obviously not conducive to keeping a job. And so there was periods there where I was having to support her because she didn't want to work. She was an artist, and she had a very artistic temperament. If you read books about famous artists, they have it's kind of a commonality across them is that they have very they run hot and cold. I guess a little bit, not kind of throwing this word around, but a little bit bipolar. Like if you read about Michelangelo, like when he was doing the Sistine Chapel, he'd spend however weeks or months doing a section of it, and to do it he had to lie upside down on kind of scaffolding, and then he would just kind of flip out and just like smash all the work he'd just spent the last 2 months doing. And I've known artists like that as well. Spend weeks and weeks on some painting or some other work, and then for whatever reason they just kind of snap and it's not good enough, and they just throw the whole thing out. Like there's literally burn it or smash it into pieces. And you think, if it was me, I probably just would have gone with it and said, it's good enough. Maybe that's why I'm not an artist. Okay, I'm really rambling there. I hope someone listened to that. I doubt anyone has. Anyway, 2 new CDs. Really kind of on the edge of things I would usually buy, but like I said, I was in the mood to buy something today. So I'll give them a listen, and maybe, who knows, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. Thanks for listening.